Welcome to How Not to Souls, J-Ron here. Today, we are looking at the Archmage, the caster of casters, the build that can cast all the spells effectively, efficiently, and with not too much detriment. I know a game like this, you kind of want to maximize what your damage type is going to be it strength, dex, arcane, faith, or if you're trying to do status build luck. But it turns out, if you level up faith and intelligence, you're still going to be doing a lot of damage on your Jack of all trades caster. So that's a very positive thing. And it was fun. I think it's always worth a shot. As you can see, faith and intelligence splits. An okay amount of health. I feel like we can go higher on attunement, but it kind of is what it is. I felt like we needed more endurance so we could move around and cast more, just because I thought a 20... And our health and endurance are buffed up by, I think, the Prisoner's Chain. So, but having more endurance give us more castability, and I felt later on in the run, castability was an issue. And everything is more or less at base outside of the things that are buffed up by the Prisoner's Chain. So let's go over our equipment, then we can talk about spells. So we have, for faith and intelligence casting, we both have implements for dark and the regular sorceries / miracles. So we went with our sorcerer staff because the buff on it, the core sorcerer staff only gets good after like 52 or 53. Well, it's gets a higher spell buff on it after 52 or 53. And go for the Eyeless Death, man. It's the best it's the best casting implement for dark sorceries. I think the Murky Longstaff's better if you buff it up with its weapon art. But all around, the Eyeless Staff is better, in my opinion. So you can see. Yeah, see, the core sorcerer staff we're at 50, and that's the regular sorcerer staff. So when this hits about 53, the core sorcerer staff really shines. Like anything, the high intelligence, the core sorcerer staff is better. But the sorcerer staff on its own, I mean, it's not even buffed up, but trust me on that. For our miracles, or dual casting of miracles. So for the duration of the playthrough, we had the Saint's Talisman, but we jumped over to Yorshkish Chime because it has a higher spell buff. And for our dark sorceries, well, you can use the Sunless Chime, or the Sunless Chime you get from what's her name? Cirrus. Or the Caetheus Chime we could pick up in the Lotharic Castle. That's like right above the two knights as you're making your way towards the bridge with the two dragons on it. It is, I feel, the superior option, but I think that's more of an opinion and not a fact. Or if you want to do something like, if you want to have dual casts with your Mercury, your miracles and your sorceries, the Crystal Chime's always a great option as well. Or if you want to do that with your pyromancy and your miracles, you can also do the long hair talisman, but that is a pain in the butt to get. But other than that, those are the implements that we used for miracles and sorceries. Obviously, the pyromancy flame. For pyromancies, we wanted to do the parting flame because it's better with great combustion and black flame because it's a higher spread on the flame. But we just didn't make any of the strength requirements because everything's base. So, pyromancy class, by the way. We started off as a pyromancer. It was probably the better option. I looked at a bunch of different ones. It was the better option. And so that was that for our casting implements. Scholar's Candlestick to buff our sorceries when we were casting sorceries. The Saint Tree Bellvine is not really a casting implement, more of a speed to help your casting faster. It essentially is a Sage Ring +2 if you keep it in your offhand. Or if you use it as a casting implement, it also is that. It can also cast fast as well, but it's just not as strong as our other options. But I mean, set up your rings accordingly for how you're going to cast. I fought the Soul of Cinder with Dark Sorceries, so that's why I have my Young Dragon ring, my Bellowing Dragon Crest ring. But always try to, like, if you're going out in the field and doing basic stuff, I would always have like one, two of these on. Well, I always have like I would usually have a Pyromancy ring on, or the Witch's ring, or the ring of the ring of the Sun's Firstborn on, just to get that irk out that extra damage. Pending with so the sorceries, since we had to have the Scholar's Candlestick, we always had the Sage ring on. But we weren't casting sorceries. We had I even forgot. Lloyd's Sword Ring or something to buff up our damage or give us some more protection or something, or like more stats. Ring of Favor I would have in place of that. Stuff like that, you know. For our armor / fashion. So between the Sage's Big Hat and the Crown of Dusk. When we were casting sorceries, we had the Crown of Dusk. For all other purposes, we had Sage's Big Hat. I thought it worked out really well with the Court Sorcerer's gear, or the Court Sorcerer's robe with the Witchfire gauntlets and the Witchfire leggings. And like the Witchfire leggings kind of like give us that nice little blend with the Court Sorcerer robes. And I like the gauntlets too, how it looks with it. I don't know. I feel like we look pretty awesome fashion-wise. And I guess as a sorcerer would be, just sorcerer-wise, looking pretty, or magic caster. Pretty good looking, gave us enough coverage, even though, you know how it is with clothing in this game. Sometimes your best options aren't armor, and you want to kind of look dope, you know what I mean? For our spells, okay, so what we have on here is our walk around spells, fighting our basic adds. Great Combustion. Firestorm was not a thing I had on. I would have, hold on, either a Sacred Flame or Fire Orb. More or less Fire Orb, I think, to be on there. But if I was feeling spicy, Boulder Heave, which was huge. I say once I got Boulder Heave from Farron Keep, the Abyss Demon in Farron Keep, that was a regular here. We'll even have it in its rightful place. That feels better. These were our walk-around spells. That's what we were using. I switched between Great Combustion and Black Flame as well. In between Black Fire Orb and Boulder Heave. For our sorceries, Great Soul Arrow and Fan and Flash Sword. Listen, it's about, when it comes down to it, it's about FP usage most of the time. Fan and Flash Sword does not use a lot of MP. Neither does Great Soul Arrow. So walking around with these big billing sorceries just for standard adds didn't make sense. And then there's only 2 Dark Miracles. I don't know, Dark Miracles are kind of awesome, and there's not many of them in this game. But our walk around was either Life Hunt Scythe or Dorothy's 9. We did dive into the lightning. We get this later on in the playthrough at the end. But we did walk around with our lightning spear and lightning stake, which I do like those. Lightning stake actually is pretty awesome. I just wish it had a little more range. Wrath of the Gods is always a good choice on miracles too. And our main miracle before going into bosses was Secret Oath. Now, so we did use for boss killers. Here, let's go we'll set up a boss killing ring here and show you what we would use for bosses. Always, they have some of these I have to take up 2 slots. So let's get all that. Always pop on a Sacred Oath to buff up our damage. It's not the best option for a buff. If you actually want to put something into Strength and Dex, you could use the Sword of the Sword of Sunlight. That buff is pretty good. It just doesn't last as long. It actually has a higher attack buff than Sacred Oath. I'd say Vestiges or Fire Orb are both good options. We'll just pop on Fire Orb there. For a boss killer for sorceries, I'm always a big fan of Great Soul Dregs. Pestilent Mist or Soul Spear or Crystal Soul Spear. I just don't. Oh God, Soul Stream. I just don't get. It's just not that great. It takes too long to charge, and by the time you get it out, they all move. But yeah, for the boss killing show, I'm gonna pop on this, and for the boss, and like if we were going after bosses with miracles, it'd be lightning stake, Dorothy's gnawing, or life hunt scythe. I know lightning spear just doesn't have the chutzpah. You know what I mean? It just doesn't have that. Biggest disappointment, and something I've been wanting to use for a real long time, and I finally got to use it, Divine Pillars of Light. It looks so good. Here, we'll even give it a cast. Let's give it a cast. It looks so good, but it's just one of those things, if you can get it to land, that's great. But like spells like this, man, it looks dope, right? Hold on. Does it hold? If we hold it, does it just keep going? No, it does not. Which is also kind of super lame. If you can hold down your cast and have that keep going, that would actually be better. But no, if it doesn't hit anything, or it hits it like once, it's just not terribly awesome. You know what I mean? So that was the biggest disappointment of the run, was finding out how much Divine Pillars of Light is not good. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty good time. I had fun. I had a lot of fun. I feel that if you're looking for a casting, if you've never done casting before, stick to sorceries or pyromancies. A miracle build, obviously, it's a running meme about Dark Souls 3. Miracle builds aren't really great. They can be, but they start off slow and you don't really get anything till later. But like, if you have like Fair and Keep, you don't get anything really well. They still Fair and Keep. And Force kind of sucks. So, but anyway, I hope you enjoy the footage, and I have to do this here because I can't see my face. And I'll see you later. Peace out.